Stacey Schneider. And Stacey, you say today's indictment reads like a mob indictment. What was most shocking to you of all these allegations?
Yeah, the fact, Jake, that the government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
Picture this. One of the most powerful figures in the entertainment industry, a man who once commanded the stage with the likes of the Notorious B I G, now faces serious charges that could bring his empire crashing down. Yes, you heard that right. Sean Diddy Combs, the legendary hip-hop mogul, has found himself at the center of a scandal so wild, so shocking, it's like something straight out of a Hollywood thriller. But how did it all get to this point? How did a man who once sat at the very top of the music world, rubbing elbows with the biggest names in the business, end up entangled in allegations of conspiracy, coercion, and dark secrets that are slowly unraveling?
Do you believe Diddy is a dangerous person?
Yes.
Well, buckle up, because this is a story full of bizarre twists, turns, and bombshell revelations that will leave you on the edge of your seat. And trust us, you won't want to miss a single detail. It all started with a case that many thought had nothing to do with Diddy. Back in 2018, a man named Jonathan Oddie was arrested after a chaotic shooting at the Trump National Doral Hotel in Miami. Now, Jonathan wasn't just some random guy. He had a lot to say when police got him into an interrogation room. And what he had to say, it was explosive. During his police interview, Jonathan dropped the bombshell that he had been connected to Diddy. Yes, you heard that right. This man, involved in a hotel shooting, suddenly starts talking about none other than Sean Combs.
They do not prepare for a trial. They put so much pressure on the defense team and on the defendant with the amount of evidence they have and witnesses and electronic surveillance evidence, all of that into a packet. They don't move forward until they have you. And Diddy is in a lot of trouble with the Southern District being at the point they're at right now.
Now, Jonathan wasn't just some random guy. He had a lot to say when police got him into an interrogation room. And what he had to say, it was explosive. During his police interview, Jonathan dropped the bombshell that he had been connected to Diddy. Yes, you heard that right. This man, involved in a hotel shooting, suddenly starts talking about none other than Sean Combs, and it wasn't just casual name dropping. Jonathan Oddie claimed that he had been involved in some seriously disturbing activities linked to Diddy's world. He painted a picture of secretive parties, hidden cameras, and powerful people pulling the strings from behind the scenes. According to Jonathan, there was much more going on than anyone could have ever imagined. He even brought up connections to organizations like the Boule and, wait for it, the Illuminati. Yeah, we're talking full-blown conspiracy theories here, folks. Jonathan wasn't holding back.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people. Okay.
Now, let's take a second to unpack this, because this is where things start getting really interesting. If you've been following the rumor mill for a while, you know that whispers about secret societies and hidden agendas have followed certain celebrities for years. And Diddy. Well, he's no stranger to being in the spotlight, but Jonathan's claims took things to a whole new level. According to him, Diddy wasn't just another celebrity. He was part of something much bigger, something much darker. Jonathan claimed that the hip-hop world was more than just music. It was a cover for a much larger operation, one that involved moving things around the world in ways you'd never expect. And Diddy, he was allegedly at the center of it.
That this is the end of the Diddy story as we know it.
Of course, when someone starts talking about secret organizations and global conspiracies, it's easy to brush them off as delusional or attention-seeking. But here's the thing. Jonathan wasn't some nobody with a wild imagination. He had specific stories, details that made people sit up and listen. He didn't just claim to know about Diddy's secretive life. He claimed to have been a part of it.
I had Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would mess and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a slave. Okay. For them, that's what I was.
According to Jonathan, he was involved in some of the more intimate moments of Diddy's world, even mentioning that he had shared close encounters with Diddy's then-girlfriend, Cassie. And if that wasn't enough to make people take notice, he also mentioned being privy to certain phone calls, certain conversations that no one outside Diddy's circle should have known about.
Well, either way, if you got to run to a private island because your evil doings is doing so much and they storming your house, it's one of these.
This is where things start to really connect because remember, Diddy's former partner, Cassie, filed a lawsuit against him just last year, and her allegations were jaw-dropping in their own right. She described a relationship filled with control, manipulation, and worse. Cassie claimed that Diddy had pushed her in situations that no one should ever be forced into. These situations involved high-profile events and private moments that were far from glamorous. According to her, she was trapped in a cycle that blurred the lines between personal life and the kind of disturbing events Jonathan Auty was alluding to. If you put the two accounts side by side, there's an undeniable overlap. Jonathan might have been talking in conspiracy theory terms, but the substance of what he was describing wasn't too far off from Cassie's own allegations.
That he controlled every aspect of her life. He is accused of frequently beating her and would hide her in hotel rooms for days until the bruising and signs of abuse were gone.
Now, let's fast forward to the present day, where Diddy's legal troubles are really starting to pile up. As of September 2024, Diddy is facing serious charges related to a whole host of activities that most people can't even fathom. He's been hit with charges of conspiracy, trafficking, and more, and the details are chilling. Federal authorities have been circling him for months, conducting raids on his properties in Los Angeles and Miami. And these aren't just minor searches. According to reports, law enforcement seized everything from tech devices to evidence linked to those infamous private gatherings.
Replete with very, very serious and salacious allegations, including allegations that Combs had cameras through.
Here's where things take an even darker turn. In March 2024, Homeland Security raided Diddy's home in Los Angeles, and what they found sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Allegedly, they discovered footage from what can only be described as orchestrated, multi-day events involving numerous people. This wasn't just a party, folks. This was something much more structured and much more sinister. The authorities reportedly uncovered recordings that Diddy had kept for years, and these weren't your typical home movies. Some sources have even hinted that these tapes could be at the center of the case, providing critical evidence to back up the charges against him.
Diddy is now being sued in addition to what we just talked about by Dawn Richards. You guys will remember her. She was a part of Making the Band.
Dirty Money.
Dirty Money, the Danny Kane era. So basically what she is alleging, she's alleging a lot of different things too. So
it gets worse. As part of their investigation, officials have been interviewing multiple individuals who claim to have been involved in Diddy's world, and their accounts line up with what Jonathan Auty was saying back in 2018. These individuals describe a pattern of manipulation and coercion, similar to what Cassie had detailed in her lawsuit. They talk about being drawn into situations that spiraled out of control, often under the influence of powerful figures who made it clear that saying no wasn't an option. And Diddy, well, let's just say he wasn't an innocent bystander in these stories.
Problems that the defense has brought up originally, but it seems like, just from reading this 14-page indictment, that there is enough physical evidence to perhaps get a conviction in this case. We shall see. These are allegations.
As these revelations come to light, it's becoming clear that Diddy's public persona might have been hiding a much darker reality. His success in the music industry, his image as a savvy businessman, even his philanthropy, everything is now under scrutiny. Was it all just a carefully constructed facade to hide what was really going on behind closed doors? That's the question everyone is asking.
When you're doing an interview like that, you do more listening than you do talking. And you let them talk, because it's amazing what people will bring up when they're in the situation that this individual was in. People will give up anything they have in their back pocket, experiences they've had, or who they've had them with.
At this point, you might be wondering, is there any chance Diddy can come out of this unscathed? Well, according to former NYPD Detective Tom Smith, who weighed in on the case, the outlook doesn't look good for the hip-hop mogul. In an interview, Smith explained that the U.S. Attorney's Office is known for building rock-solid cases before they ever take them to court. They don't bring charges unless they're confident they've got the evidence to back it up. And with the amount of material reportedly seized from Diddy's homes, it seems like they've been preparing for this moment for a long time. Smith even went so far as to say that Diddy's situation could get a lot worse before it gets any better.
Now you got the Diddy situation where he jumps on a private jet, they say yesterday, and is on his way to the Cape Verde Islands.
But what about Jonathan Auty? Is he just a random guy with wild stories, or could he actually be a key witness in this whole mess? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Some people believe that his bizarre interview from 2018 might hold the key to understanding the full scope of what's going on. After all, he made these claims years before any formal charges were brought against Diddy, and yet his story aligns eerily well with the accusations coming to light now. Whether or not he'll play a role in the ongoing investigation remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. Jonathan Auty knew something, and he wasn't afraid to talk about it.
The hip-hop agenda is an agenda to move the United States. They move, you need to involve the DEA. They move all the Okay, all the on private jets, which don't get screened by
customs,
by Diddy.
Okay.
As this case unfolds, more and more people are starting to come forward, sharing their own experiences and stories about what really went on in Diddy's inner circle. There's talk of intimidation, of people being silenced, and of others being too scared to speak out. Some have even suggested that the reason it took so long for these allegations to come to light is that Diddy's influence in the industry was just too strong. After all, when you're one of the biggest names in music with connections that run deep in both business and politics, it's not hard to imagine that people might be hesitant to cross you.
That clearly there is a criminal investigation underway and that they believe that there would be evidence of crimes in one or both of these homes.
And yet, here we are. The facade has started to crack, and what's emerging is a picture of a man who wielded power in ways that went far beyond the world of music. Diddy's life and career are now under the microscope like never before, and with each new revelation, it's becoming harder to see how he can walk away from this without facing serious consequences.
Diddy has been under criminal investigation for months by federal prosecutors here in New York, and if there are criminal charges, many of them may look a lot like what some of these individuals have been describing.
At the same time, though, Diddy's legal team is standing by him, claiming that all of this is nothing more than an attempt to bring him down. They've labeled the allegations as false, insisting that the lawsuits and charges are simply part of a broader campaign to smear his name and destroy his legacy. They're fighting back hard, determined to prove his innocence and clear his name. But with so much evidence reportedly piling up against him, it's going to be an uphill battle. So, where does this leave us? Well, one thing's for sure, this story is far from over. As more people come forward, as more details are revealed, the picture of who's seen Diddy Combs really continues to shift. Is he the mogul who built an empire from the ground up, or is there a much darker side to the man behind the music? That's the question everyone is asking, and the answer might just change everything we thought we knew.
The money that they're saying Diddy has to start paying this guy on October 1st, right. Diddy's team is like, hold on, we need an emergency conversation about why this should not have been granted. Mm-hmm. And they awarded him a TRO, which basically meant that Diddy's team was not allowed to sell any property in that state or anything related to what could be used to.
So now that we've peeled back some of the layers of this mind-blowing story, let's dive into what life is looking like for Diddy right now. And trust us, things are getting intense. The man who once lived a life of pure luxury is now facing some of the most serious charges imaginable. The days of private jets and lavish parties seem like a distant memory as Diddy finds himself stuck in a completely different reality, one that couldn't be further from the world of fame and fortune he's used to. Let's break down exactly what's going on.
Everything that you're looking at, they're all tied in together. Every part, as crazy as this seems, as outrageous as it seems, it all ties in. Every bit.
First off, you've probably heard by now that Diddy has been denied bail twice. Yeah, you heard that right, twice. A man who could have easily put up millions for bail was told, nope, you're not going anywhere. And why, you might ask? Well, the prosecutors argued that he was a serious flight risk, and they weren't wrong. Let's not forget that Diddy has the kind of connections that could make disappearing look like child's play. We're talking private islands, high-powered friends, and the ability to pull strings in ways most people could only dream of. Add to that his alleged history of intimidating witnesses, and you've got a recipe for the court to play it safe and keep him behind bars. And where exactly is he being held? Well, Diddy is currently locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a far cry from the luxury penthouses he's used to. This facility isn't exactly the kind of place you'd picture for a man who once lived in mansions worth tens of millions. It's a harsh, cold, and gritty environment, and from what we hear, Diddy isn't getting any special treatment. He's been placed in a special housing unit, which is designed for inmates who require extra security, either for their protection or to keep them away from the general population. Given the high-profile nature of his case, it's no surprise that the authorities are taking extra precautions. The last thing they need is a headline about something happening to Diddy while he awaits trial.
Clients describe NBC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
Now, let's talk about the conditions in this facility. The Metropolitan Detention Center is notorious for its less than ideal living situations. In fact, it's known for being overcrowded, understaffed, and quite frankly, uncomfortable. We're talking about small cells, minimal privileges, and long hours of isolation. For someone like Diddy, who's used to the best of everything, this must feel like a living nightmare. Sources say he's only allowed out of his cell for a few hours each day, and even then, his movements are heavily restricted. The special housing unit means that Diddy doesn't get to interact with other inmates. And while that might keep him safe, it also means that he's facing a level of isolation that most people would struggle to handle. Imagine going from being surrounded by entourages and adoring fans to complete solitude. That's got to be a massive adjustment for someone used to constant attention.
This is in the matter of Derek Lee Cardello Smith, MDOC number 267009 versus Sean Combs, Sean Puff Daddy Combs, also known as Sean P. Diddy, also known as Diddy, Bad Boy Records label owner.
And let's not forget, Diddy is also reportedly on self-harm prevention watch. This is a standard precaution for high-profile inmates, especially those who are facing the kinds of charges that could lead to a life sentence. Being in that kind of situation can take a serious toll on anyone's mental health, and it seems the authorities aren't taking any chances. His legal team has been vocal about the fact that Diddy is a fighter, and they claim that he's going to keep his head up through all of this. But when you're sitting in a cell, stripped of everything you once had, it's hard to imagine that Diddy isn't feeling the weight of it all.
Now, so what is next? Is he going to be in jail in this facility until the trial begins? Is there a chance he could, get moved earlier than that?
As of this moment, as of this hour, as of today, yes. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be appealing this thing next to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn the judge's order here to try and get him actually released to his mansion.
Speaking of his legal team, they've been working overtime to try and get him released. They even offered an eye-popping $50 million bond, along with round-the-clock private security and strict conditions that would have limited his access to communication. That's right, Diddy's legal team essentially proposed that he be placed under house arrest in his own mansion, with security guards watching his every move. But the judge wasn't having it. The prosecution made it clear that Diddy's resources and influence could allow him to flee the country or intimidate witnesses, even under such strict conditions. So for now, Diddy remains in Brooklyn, far from the life he's known for so long.
Government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being. They have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Now, let's talk about what Diddy is up against. The charges are serious. So serious that they could land him in prison for the rest of his life. At the center of it all are accusations of trafficking and a host of other illicit activities that are tied to his alleged freak-off gatherings. These events, described by those who've come forward, paint a picture of a highly orchestrated operation that went on for years. We're not just talking about a wild party or two. We're talking about something much bigger, something much more sinister.
And I remember, I don't know if you know what his voice sounds like, but I felt like I was in the presence of his monster inside.
The FBI has been working on this case for months, and their investigation has brought to light some pretty damning evidence. They've reportedly seized videos, photos, and other forms of documentation that show exactly what was happening behind closed doors. Some sources even claim that these videos show famous faces, celebrities who attended these events and may have participated in things they'd rather keep out of the public eye. And that's where things get tricky, because Diddy isn't the only one under the microscope right now. As more details come to light, it seems like there could be a domino effect, with other big names getting dragged into the mess.
And if he's allowed to go through with any of the sales, I won't be able to recoup any of my monies or anything from him as a result of any possible judgment in this action, if he's allowed to proceed with it. And an injunction or a restraining order would help ensure that he's not manipulating and selling the property to avoid this.
And it's not just the videos that are causing trouble for Diddy. There are also several people who've come forward willing to testify about what they saw and experienced. These aren't just anonymous sources either. These are people who were in Diddy's inner circle, people who knew him personally and were part of his life for years. They're telling stories that, if true, could destroy what's left of Diddy's reputation. One former backup dancer has spoken out, claiming that she avoided Diddy at all costs after witnessing things she couldn't unsee. While she hasn't accused him of directly harming her, the fact that she's now speaking out adds fuel to the fire. Then there's Cassie, Diddy's former partner, whose lawsuit against him may have been the catalyst for everything that's happening now. Her claims of being forced into situations that no one should have to endure are harrowing. She describes years of being controlled, manipulated, and unable to escape the situation she was in. It's no wonder that, after her lawsuit, the floodgates opened and others began to speak out as well. And as if things weren't already bad enough, footage of Diddy assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway back in 2016 has resurfaced, adding yet another layer to the accusations against him.
There has been some updates in the Diddy $100 million default judgment that we reported on earlier this week.
And if you thought things couldn't get any worse for Diddy, guess again. Just last month, former model Crystal McKinney filed her own lawsuit accusing Diddy of misconduct that took place in a New York recording studio back in the early 2000s. She claims that she was tricked into a compromising situation and left feeling violated. This lawsuit, along with others that have been filed in recent months, shows that the walls are closing in on Daddy from all sides. Each new allegation seems to build on the last, creating a mountain of evidence that will be hard for him to climb out from under. With all of this happening, one has to wonder, what's next for Diddy? His legal team is putting up a fight, insisting that he's innocent and that these are just desperate attempts to take him down. But with so many voices speaking out and with federal investigators circling him, it's hard to see how Diddy can come out of this unscathed. Even if he somehow beats the criminal charges, his reputation has already taken a massive hit. Brands have begun distancing themselves from him, and business partnerships are falling apart. His own TV network, Revolt, even announced that Diddy was stepping down as chairman, and many believe this is just the beginning of his fall from grace.
Well, if he really was filming everybody, I mean, he had a lot of people at those parties, right?
So, where does that leave the once mighty Sean Combs? For now, he's sitting in a cell awaiting his day in court, with the weight of multiple lawsuits and criminal charges hanging over his head. It's a stark contrast to the life of luxury and power he once enjoyed. Whether or not Diddy is guilty of the charges remains to be seen, but one thing's for sure, his life will never be the same again. His empire, once untouchable, is crumbling, and the public is left wondering what the future holds for the man who once called himself a king.
And let me tell you something else. Not only should he have apologized to Cassie in that video, he should have apologized to all of the general public that he lied to.
But let's be real, Diddy has always been a fighter. He's clawed his way to the top before, and his legal team is certainly going to do everything in their power to help him climb out of this hole. Whether it's enough to clear his name remains to be seen. What's undeniable, though, is that this case is far from over, and every new revelation seems to take us deeper into a world that most of us could never have imagined. So, with all these shocking revelations coming to light, the big question remains, can Diddy ever recover from this scandal? Or is this the beginning of the end for one of hip-hop's biggest moguls? What do you think? Is he being unfairly targeted, or do these mounting allegations tell a much darker story? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time.